I had a different kind of superhero when I was a young boy. I had my grandfather. In my mind, he was very clever, he was smart, he was intelligent, he could do everything. But most importantly, he was very kind, and he saw me. He was my superhero. But he got old, while I still was a young man, and he surprised me. He told me stories that got me wondering. I started to wonder if my grandfather was actually proud of his life. I got the question if he would love to have a second chance. I respected my grandfather. I still do. But by his stories and by his sadness, he made me wonder. Imagine you are old. Imagine that you know you're dying. I wonder how many of you would look back on life and say it's been a good life. I wonder how many of you would look back on life and say it's been great. Imagine life as a journey, as an expedition into a mountainous area with a deep, dark valleys and beautiful mountains. Sadly enough, and I realize this, some people walk through their life in tough terrain with wet feet and blisters and a heavy backpack. Maybe most of us walk somewhere in the middle. But there are some people who create this amazing journey filled with joy and happiness. There are some people who climb and develop, who have this great feeling more often than the rest. They even stop from time to time and feel peace and gratitude. Is it possible to change path? Is it possible to go from good to great? When I was 7 years old, I put my boots on, I put my small backpack on and started walking to school, 2 kilometers each way, and I got scared. I got scared because I felt alone. I was incredibly small as a kid. I was amazingly bad at soccer. I was weak. I had a strange accent. So I hit some tough terrain immediately. And I started to wonder, what is the difference between the children who enjoy the walk to school and me? And I took it a little bit further because I was a little bit scared, or I was actually very scared, that this is the way it's going to be. So I started reading about people who to me looked like they've created this amazing journey. I started reading about amazing people. I started reading about Winston Churchill and Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, Mother Teresa, and I was especially attracted to Norwegian explorers who literally walked a journey of success, who put one foot in front of the other and created this fantastic journey. The first human being to cross Greenland, to step on the South Pole, and Edmund Hillary to walk on Mount Everest. And I wondered, can I learn something from these people? They proved to me that it was possible to change path. Many of them hit some tough terrain in the beginning as well. So I was convinced it is possible to change path. So the big question became, and I've been following this question for over 30 years now, how did they do it? How did they change path? It was actually a very small difference between good and great. It was almost invisible. Imagine you are walking into this mountainous area, and if you change angle just a little bit, it doesn't make any big impact the first couple of days, but after a week, after a couple of weeks, after months, years, it will take you on a totally different journey and take you to totally different places compared to if you continue as is. And it was all about these small decisions, small steps we actually make, that we all make every day. The only thing I found that these amazing people with these amazing journeys had in common was their way of thinking. They put something in their backpack to be able to make more of the right steps more often. They had 3 tools in their backpack. It was a map, an altimeter, and a pair of binoculars. So I was standing there and I was convinced that I can change path. Edmund Hillary told me, if you want to change path, you need to know what you're trying to achieve. You need to find your mountain and why you want to climb it. Since I was so weak and small and very much alone, I picked up when my uncle told me, the toughest you can be, Erik, is a paratrooper. I wanted to be someone. I wanted to be part of something, and I wanted to be tough. So I decided when I was 12 years old, I wanted to become a paratrooper. This map of knowing what I fight it for and why, the values, the needs, made me actually make some steps in my everyday life. I actually started to train and exercise. I actually started to eat healthy. I actually started to do well in school because I had my map. This power of this map, knowing your mountain, revealed itself actually more when I started my small career in the military. Because during selection, they finalized the whole thing by something they call Hell Week, the last week where you're pushed to the limits physically and mentally to show if you're the real material or not. And we were told you have to take care of your feet if you want to climb the mountain. You have to take care of your feet. We all know, don't we, what we should do, what we can do to improve life, the quality of life, or to perform better. The officer told us, you have to take care of your feet. And they even had a 60-minute lecture on how to take care of our feet, how to polish our boots, how to remove dead skin, how to dry our feet with a towel, and how to tie the boots. When you're given 5 minutes, take care of your feet. But what happened? We walked for hours, we walked for days. It was in the army. And when we were given 5 minutes rest, hundreds of soldiers just sat down and rested and did only that. But if you were there and walked among all these hundreds of young men who wanted to become a sergeant or a paratrooper, you would see, if you looked very closely, that there were actually a few of them would take care of their feet. In the end of the week, most of the guys had so much pain that they couldn't continue. That small step proved to be decisive. I joined the army. I found my mountain, and I had some incredible years. I had this fantastic feeling very often. After 3.5 years in the army, I was driving an early morning to the camp. I was borrowing my mother's car. It was a winter's day in Norway, and it was incredibly slippery on the road. Suddenly, a bus comes towards me, sliding sideways towards me. I couldn't move anywhere. It covered the road and it hit me twice. Hard. I was conscious all the time. I thought everything was good because I couldn't see any broken bones. I was able to actually climb out of the front window. But when the adrenaline went out of the body and the police and the ambulance arrived, I could feel an intense pain in my neck and my head. It was bad. And I had a hard time to continue my work in the army. The pain got so intense and so bad that I have to quit. I had to quit my job. I tried to study, but I was not able to do that. I felt I couldn't do anything. I only felt the pain. From the moment I woke up in the morning and until I went to bed in the evening. I went months and 2.5 years went by with the pain. And then something happened that actually changed my way of thinking. I met this minister by coincidence in the streets of a small city in Norway. And he asked me, "How are you doing, Erik?" And I said, I'm fine. He tilted his head and he asked me again, "How are you really doing, Erik?" And for some reason, I chose to be honest with this minister. I told him that I think it's hard. I had to quit my job. I tried to study, but I can't do it. I only feel that I do exist. I feel sorry for myself. It's hard. And he said, "Isn't it fascinating?" I didn't find it fascinating at all. He said, "Think about it, Erik. Last time I met you, you were up here, and now you're down here. You were so full of energy, confidence, joy, and happiness. And now you feel sad. I sense that you don't have any hope anymore. You're lucky. Because most people, they stay in the middle. You are lucky to experience this enormous variety of feelings that we as human beings have. We as human beings have this enormous range of feelings, and you're actually able to feel them, to feel the contrast." I went home and I thought about Winston Churchill. And he said, "If you're going through hell, keep on walking." And I told myself, maybe this is the important part of life. I've been on this mountaintop. I can't just jump to another mountaintop. I have to go through the valley. But great feels great because of the opposite. So this makes sense. I want to be out of the comfort zone. I want to feel good in the shower after being out in the cold. I want to have this good grade at school after struggling, fighting, working for it. I want to have success after failure. It made sense. It was an important part of the whole journey to want the tough times, to want the hard days. My grandfather, he died. And that was incredibly sad. But he gave me the most amazing gift ever. He gave me a pair of binoculars. This ability, this possibility to look at life, not only at the funeral or from time to time, but every day. I remind myself that life is a journey, and journeys are made by the small steps. And one day it's over. I remind myself that one day I will die. And what would I like to tell myself when I'm lying there and talking to my grandchildren? Would I say the same thing as my grandfather told me? Do the best out of it, Erik. Do the best out of life. And what kind of feeling do I want then? We have about 4,000 weeks on this planet that is 4.54 billion years old. We are here just for a short visit. In 100 years, we're all dust. If you look at your life from far, far, far away, it's easier to be in the now. It's easier to have less fear. It's easier to be more kind. It's easier to feel more gratitude. We all know what we can do and should do to get out of bed when the alarm bell goes off and not hit the snooze button. We know that we should iron the whole shirt and not only this part that shows on the blazer. We know that we should be kind and giving and be in the now, to find solutions instead of problems. We know that we should get enough sleep and exercise. We know so much about how we should make these steps. And I started school with a backpack filled with expectations and hope. But I have learned something, and I think we all can learn, and we can all develop, and we can all get this better journey, that we can fill this backpack with some amazing tools and pull them out every day and look at the map and see what kind of mountain do you want to achieve and why. What's your values, what's your needs, what's your goal? That's the map. And the altimeter, it shows what kind of altitude are you at. You find them in planes, and even skydivers use them. And you will think more about, hey, I want the contrasts. I want the pain. I want to feel nervous. I want to be uncomfortable, because that creates the opposite of feeling grateful and happy. And I pull out these binoculars as well, because then I can see life in another perspective and think, hey, it's today that counts, and I want to be as good as I can. If we believe in the small steps for the individual, we can believe in it for mankind as well, to make some small steps. Small is beautiful. Think about it. It takes 1 minute to give a compliment. It takes a second to give a smile. Yes, a small step, but it might create a giant leap. Thank you.